I'll be demonstrating how to weave in ends in garter stitch. Garter stitch, the weaving in technique is similar to that on the wrong side of stockinette, and if you're unfamiliar with that, you can watch my weaving in ends video. The challenge with weaving in garter stitch is we have all knit stitches, and so it makes these ridges. The wrong side of the work and the right side of the work look the same, but I have designated this as the wrong side, and I've already woven in one piece of yarn, and you can see that it's nice and invisible here. But what we're going to do to make it this invisible is we are going to weave in as if this were a all purl fabric. So we're going to only concern ourselves with these bumps or ridges, and we're going to ignore the knit stitches that are in between them. So to understand garter stitch, you know that when you knit on both sides, you do get these ridges. And each ridge, and see if you can get in here, you can see that each ridge is made of 2 stitches. This top stitch looks like an upside down U, or some people call that a frown. And the bottom edge of that ridge looks like a U, or we can call that a smile. So each ridge is made up of an upside down U and a U, or frown and smile. And what we're going to do is to join one ridge to the ridge below it. And we're going to connect the lower stitch of a ridge, which would be this smile, to the frown, or the bump that it butts up against, and we're going to move in a zigzag fashion. So just for demonstration, I have a piece of contrasting yarn here, and so that you can see how my yarn moves through the fabric. So we're going to join these 2 ridges together, and the bumps that butt up to each other, we have the smiles here, or the U's, and we're going to join them to the bumps that just butt up right next to it, and those are the upside down U's, or the frowns. So we're going to start by going into the upper ridge. So here's the upper ridge, here's the lower ridge. I'm going to go into the bottom stitch, which is that smile, from top to bottom, and then I'm going to swing to, kind of at an angle, to the frown, first frown on that lower ridge, and then just bring my yarn through. So it's kind of hard to see when you first get started. And now what we're going to do is always go into, we just entered that stitch, so I'm going to go to its neighboring. This is, remember, an upside down U, or a frown. I'm going to go into its neighbor, and then I'm going to go to the ridge above, into that stitch that has already been visited, or into the smile above, and draw my yarn through. So here is the smile, or U, in that row. So right next to it, we're going to go to its neighbor, the next U, and then revisit that upside down U, or frown, in the row below. So you can see our little pattern is always go to the neighboring stitch of the same kind. So we're working in this edge on the upside down U's, or the frowns, and then you revisit that last stitch on the ridge opposite it. So up here we're dealing with the smiles, so I'll go from the smile, its neighboring smile, back into that frown that we've already seen. Go to the neighboring frown, and up under the smile above. Down through the neighboring smile, back through the frown that we had already visited. And you're going to do this until you go through, about 8 stitches or so, 6 or 8 stitches. And really, you just want to weave in a couple of inches of yarn. And what that enables, I've never had it happen, but if all of this were to come undone, you have enough yarn that you could rethread onto a needle and weave again. So once you're finished, then you can snip that. And this doesn't look quite invisible, but you can see that even that contrasting yarn, I cannot see it on the front side. So I'll quickly show you how I work this with matching yarn and how nicely it looks. So I'm going to start going under the smile above. I'm joining these two ridges, these two here, and come back down under the frown. I got a little caught up here. And then go to the neighboring frown, revisit that smile that I had gone through. Back down through the neighboring smile, back down through a frown. So you can see it's really invisible. Go to the next stitch in that row and revisit the one above. So you can see if I kept going, it's really quite invisible. And especially if you are wanting your piece to be invisible, we really want something invisible on the wrong side. Happy knitting!